Yes, folks, it's Tales from the Jails with John G. Sutton. Do please like and subscribe. It's down there, folks. It really, really helps, So thanks very much. Don't forget, on the 2nd of July, that's Tuesday, the 2nd of July, 7 p.m, here on Tales from the Jails, from the live broadcast. So do join us then. make all your questions ready, and we'll go for it. All right? And comments. I love the comments. Give me some comments. Yesterday I read you a sample chapter or part of a sample chapter from my latest book, HMP Manchester Prison Officer Part 3. And today it's just been published in audiobooks. So I'm going to play you a section from the first chapter of the audiobook, which is available on Amazon, and this is read by Alan Turton, who is an experienced actor who read the first two books, Part 1 and Part 2 of my trilogy on HMP Manchester. This is Chapter 1.
Chapter 1. A seriously disgusting job. There were 2 padded cells in the hospital unit at Strangeways. Each contained a plastic piss pot, a heavy-duty blanket, and a naked, powerfully medicated inmate. It was my first full day on duty as a qualified Home Office certified hospital officer, and I was detailed to attend to the prisoners located in the cellular accommodation. It was shortly after 7 a.m. when I opened the first padded cell, and the stench of stale urine and human excrement hung in the air like an invisible, malevolent mist. The bare buttocks of the prostrate prisoner poked out from beneath his shit-streaked blanket, and there was a slippery film of dark brown diarrhea smeared across the hard plastic floor. "Wake up!" I shouted at the semi-comatose body and noted that it moved slightly. To avoid stepping in the stinking filth, I found a half-full aluminium water jug and emptied that over the man. A low groan came from beneath the blanket, quickly followed by a stream of steaming piss. "On your feet!" I boomed that order as loudly as I could, and it echoed around the cell, causing the occupant to start moving. But he didn't stand up. More crawled into a corner and, peering at me from under the heavy-duty blanket, spoke. "Go fuck yourself," he growled, glaring at me with hatred in his eyes. I was considering my options when the duty senior officer came up behind me and yelled, "Get a fucking move on, man!" Then he stamped into the padded cell, splattering putrid splotches of excrement all over the walls. I stood amazed as he grabbed the prostrate prisoner by the hair on the top of his head and dragged him out of the cell, down the corridor, and flung him into the toilet recess. The prisoner had no chance of resisting, not that it would have had any effect, other than to enrage the already angry officer. "Wash him down," the SO shouted, handing me a hosepipe, which he turned on at the tap. The water was a strong, cold jet, but it washed the congealed excrement off the prisoner's body, and he seemed not to notice the freezing temperature. Having ensured he was clear of the human waste he'd been covered in, I grabbed him by the back of his neck and gently marched him back down the corridor to his padded cell, which had been quickly swilled out with hot water and detergent by the hospital cleaners. My detailed duties, for the time being, consisted of being in charge of the cells in the hospital and making myself available as a fetch-me-carry-me odd job man. This was hardly nursing. It was more of a role usually filled by auxiliary staff. I suspected that since my recent warning from the chief hospital officer, he'd instructed I be used as a standby. All the other hospital officers had regular posts, clinics within the main prison and the Borstal allocation unit. There was also the general hospital ward, located on the first floor of the main hospital building, and 2 hospital officers ran that. There was no point in me complaining about the detail, as there was no one to complain to. I was not a member of the Prison Officers Association, having been formally expelled for my actions, which included reporting the National Executive Committee to the Scotland Yard Fraud Squad. So I just got on with slopping out the inmates in the cells, escorting visiting medical specialists and administering medication to the prisoner patients in the cells. The two occupants of the padded cells were required to be regularly medicated with their prescribed psychotropic tranquilizers. They didn't resist and seemed content to swallow their zombifying liquid largactil/chlorpromazine. It was rather disturbing to observe these inmates, human beings doped out of their minds, stumbling and staggering naked in the plastic padded cells. They were, it seemed to me, the walking dead. After a few weeks of general dog's body duties, I found myself detailed to work as the number 2 hospital officer in the clinic on A1 landing, close to the central rotunda in the main prison. This was a far more interesting role, as it involved the preparation and administering of medication for adult male prisoners. There was also the daily morning sick parade, when the lame and lazy came down to see the duty doctor. The officer running the clinic was my friend Tom from Arundel Avenue, who'd suggested to me that I apply to be a hospital officer. And now here I was, white smock, thermometer, all kitted out and ready for the patients. The first duty was to prepare and administer the previously prescribed medication. The inmates presented themselves at the hatch in the clinic and, having checked their name, Tom handed them their medication. There were many inmates prescribed liquid largactil in various strengths, while the diabetics had their syringes prepared and I supervised them injecting themselves. It was a really busy clinic and attention to detail was the order of the day. The clinic had numerous inmates just turning up asking for painkillers or plasters for minor cuts, treatments for constipation and all manner of other minor ailments. Tom was manning the hatch, handing out the medication and dealing with casual callers in his rather rough, enigmatic fashion. One prisoner poked his head in the hatch and, in a loud, uneducated Manchester accent, shouted, "Got headache, boss?" Tom reached out with his huge right hand and gripped the inmate by his shirt, pulling him halfway through the hatch. "Mr. Sutton," he shouted, "get me some elastoplast." I took some sticking plaster off the roll in the medicine cupboard, cut a length and handed it to Tom, wondering what it was for. With a completely straight face, Tom took a single aspirin tablet, placed it on the prisoner's brow, then taped it into place using the elastoplast I had handed to him. Then, with an almighty crack, he slapped the inmate on the top of his head and shouted, "Now fuck off. You'll be better by dinner time." Following the breakfast break, during which I read the Daily Telegraph and drank a single black coffee, I returned to the A1 clinic and joined Tom in preparing for the daily sick parade. The usual practice was for the duty hospital officers to give the inmates reporting sick a quick cursory once-over to make sure they were not time wasters. One at a time, we called the prisoners in and spoke briefly to them concerning their reasons for reporting sick. Some we could treat without the need of involving the doctor. Inmates with minor injuries that needed the wounds cleaning and dressing. Others with diarrhea were given the standard medication, and so on. Tom decided he would prepare the prescribed medication for inmates located on D1, the block, and conduct a routine check on those receiving treatment, whilst I was to attend with the duty doctor and deal with the inmates reporting sick. It was approximately 10 a.m. when the doctor arrived at the clinic, and I knew him from my time as a discipline officer. He was a rather eccentric gentleman of the Jewish faith, with an unconsciously amusing approach to his work. Outside the clinic, the duty discipline officer was controlling the 20 or so inmates waiting to see the doctor, and everything seemed under control. One after another, the prisoners came in complaining of bad backs, earache, bellyache, itchy scalp, etc., etc. It was mundane, uncomplicated day-to-day minor ailments that required standard treatment, which the doctor prescribed. I noted these and took all the scripts to prepare them for the next clinic, when the inmates could collect them from me at the hatch. It was running well without any issue until a particularly dishevelled prisoner walked in complaining of severe pain in his rectum. "Trousers and underpants down," instructed the doctor. "Turn round, face the wall and bend over." There followed brief moments of silence as the doctor shone a little torch between the inmate's bum cheeks. "Officer," he called to me, "come here and look at this." The problem this poor soul had was clearly evident. Protruding from the interior of his sphincter were a number of long anal warts, around 6 or so of them. I want you to get this acid from the pharmacy and paint those warts twice daily for 2 weeks. The doctor wrote the prescription, as I advised the inmate to report back to the clinic at 2 p.m. for treatment. That was, without any shadow of a doubt, going to be the most disgustingly horrible job I had ever had. But I could see that it had to be done, as the man was seriously suffering.
That's just an extract from Chapter 1 of HMP Manchester Prison Officer Part 3, which is available on Amazon. Don't forget, Tuesday the 2nd of July, here at 7 p.m. I'm going to sing you a song now. I'm going to ring the song dinger, Anna. There we are. That's a warning for all you song lovers out there to beat a hasty retreat, because I'm going to murder this one. I was born under a wandering star. I was born under a wandering star. Do I know where hell is? Hell is in hello. Heaven is goodbye forever. It's time for me to go. I was born under a wandering star. Are you wandered off now? If not, see me on the sick parade Monday morning. Arse full of Largactyl, guaranteed to work.